Once I have my A and B sections rough cut out of my strips, I don't like to presume that the banding is even on all the sides. And what I found that I like to do is to trim those banding strips down so that they will be very, very precise from the seams that are sewn. To do that, I'm going to use my Lemoyne Star ruler. But when I'm just going to deal with these one at a time. When I went to trim them down, what I found, and I placed my ruler over top, there were no guidelines. There was nothing on my tool. It's got the correct angle, but it doesn't have any guidelines for me to be able to trim. So I fiddled around a little bit and figured out that what I need to do is just to mark a couple guidelines on my Lemoyne Star ruler. So I use the back side of my Lemoyne Star ruler. Each of my Lemoyne Star rulers is covered with Invisigrip. It's that clear plastic that fits on the back of the ruler, so when I mark my lines, I'm not actually marking on the ruler itself. What I'm marking on is the Invisigrip. Now, the guidelines that you mark can be any number of sizes. There are some suggested ones on the technique sheet, but with these I'm going to mark 1 inch from the edge. So I'm taking my Lemoyne Star wrong side up. What I'm going to do is line up the 1 inch guideline on the traditional ruler with the edge of the Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star ruler. And I like to use a Sharpie marker. It's a marker that is a permanent marker and it never rubs off. Once it gets onto my plastic, it doesn't bleed or put any marks on my fabric when I'm using my tool. So the 1 inch line, use my Sharpie marker, mark a guideline going in one direction, pick up the ruler, rotate that one around. Going to take my 1 inch guideline, place it on there, and mark a second guideline 1 inch from the edge. Notice that gives me 2 lines that I'm going to use to be able to trim my bands down. Now what you may or may not have noticed is I do this in colors, and I've got a ruler that I've been using that actually has lots of different colors. It's got blue, it's got black, it's got red. All those different colors help me to make sure that when I place the ruler on the tool, I'm positioning it in the right way. So I've marked my guidelines. I'm going to flip it over so that it's now right side on the mat. I'm going to take my rough cut diamonds. These were the ones that were cut out of the strip. Use those 2 marked guidelines and position them right up against the sewn edge. And when I take my cutter and give the cut to this, pick this up and move this away, what you're going to see is that it completely cleans up those edges, and it's going to give you a much higher precision block when you're done. So I'll clean up the A sections, bring the B sections in, do exactly the same thing, take the marks, my 1 inch marks, they go again up against the seams that I've sewn, get them snugged in there. Boy, this one, I'm glad I'm cleaning this one up because it's pretty uneven. Even though I sew straight, you'll see that the banding that's left there is all over the map. But each one of these diamonds then is now ready for me to use and create my banded Lemoynes. So once I have my rough cut diamonds cleaned up along those banding edges, it's time for me to construct the block and team it up with the background pieces that I need. Now the background pieces that surround these come from the strips. The strips are listed on the chart. Take the strips, you'll cut each of the strips into squares. Each of the squares is going to be trimmed in half to create my half square triangles. But I'm not going to trim the squares in half directly from corner to corner. What I'm actually going to do is take a ruler and I'm going to put the 1/4 inch mark of a ruler here, the 1/4 inch mark of the ruler here, so the 1/4 inch is on the corner, and make a slice so that I end up with half square triangles that are larger and smaller half square triangles. I'll use those when I lay out my pieces to begin to construct the block. This is my A, this is my B. I'm going to take the larger triangles, separate them. One is going to go on this side, one is going to go on this side, and I'll take my smaller triangles and place them so that one goes there and one goes there. And we're going to construct these with a traditional piecing. We'll flip the diamond over, stitch it onto the large triangle. I always add the large triangles first and give it a press. Flip this over, stitch it, and give it a press. Again, follow the pressing directions that are given in your technique sheet. Once I have those sections pieced and pressing you should pay attention to because it's going to help all of your seams to nest. I'll have my A and I'll have my B, and I'm going to take my two smaller triangles, flip those over, and line those up as well. Now, one of the nice things about this technique, as with most of my techniques, is you don't have to do a lot of fussing with the placement of those triangles. You should try to line up the raw edges and keep those aligned, but you don't have to do a lot of precision construction here because each one of these pieces is going to be made so that it is slightly bigger than it needs to be, and I'm going to come back with my Lemoyne Star tool and trim these down and follow through to the end. So you can see I've got my diamonds, I've got my triangles added, I've got my A section, I've got my B section, and I'm going to pull out my ruler. Now I can use the same ruler that has the 1-inch markings on them, but I'm not going to use those 1-inch markings. This is going to be making a 12-inch block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two 12-inch lines, just like I would for my traditional Lemoyne Star construction, line up the 12-inch lines here and here, then come back and trim this down to a precise size. It's a big piece. There we go. And again, now what I'm going to have is an A section that is very exact. And if I pull out a B section and trim it down as well, just so you can see again, what I'm going to do, find my 12-inch line since I'm making a 12-inch block, put the 12-inch guidelines along the outer edge of the banding, and trim these down along both sides. What I'm going to have are A sections, and I'm going to have B sections that when I go to put them together, every piece is going to match, every seam is going to match. And when I'm done, I'm going to have a beautiful looking star that looks like this, that has diamonds in the middle, color of band around the outside. It's still going to have, just like the traditional Lemoyne Star, those of you who've done it, you know what I'm talking about, has extra fabric around the outside. That's going to allow me to trim each one down. There's one of my helpers. Do you have helpers at your house? We have lots of helpers at our house. This is Saba, and we've been waiting for him for a couple of videos now to end up at the top, but I'm going to scoot him off so that he's not in the way. But anyway, Saba's finally got his 15 seconds of fame, I guess. So you see, you'll have a beautiful Lemoyne Star with a band of color around the outside, and like our traditional Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star, the outside edges, the background is a little bigger than it needs to be, so you're going to be able to trim it down and clean it up to an exact 12.5-inch block and ready for you to put in your projects. Now, the neat thing about our technique sheet, one of the neat things is, not only does it give you the step-by-step directions, but it's going to give you the ability and some sizes to make banded Lemoynes all the way from 4-inch. I didn't feel comfortable working down to 3-inch, but all the way from 4-inch sizes up through and including blocks that will finish to the 12-inch size that we did today. Now, one of the things that the numbers will give you is the band trim down. We marked a 1-inch line when we trimmed the banding around the 12-inch block. That banding would be way too big if I were making one of these smaller stars. So the band trim down, you'll have to have different lines on your ruler. But you can choose. You can vary. You can make them bigger, make them smaller, and add some more variations to your banded Lemoynes. So look for this technique sheet and our Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star ruler at your local quilt shop, or check out our website. And you know, when you're there, why don't you check out our other videos that have lots of other techniques and more things to do with your Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star tool. Good luck. Have fun.